in line with the revival of pharma industries. Silabo abe Civil Aviation Authority of Zimbabwe. Silabo njalo abe EMA. I think they are here putting in place implementing various pieces of legislation to make sure that our environment is conducive for economic development of the province. Silabo njalo abe ZIA, Zimbabwe Investment Authority, the name speaks for itself. Silabo njalo a presentation from AMA higher institutions of learning. I'll start by recognizing Abe NAST, and also in recognition of Abe NAST, allow me to say we have had AMA students of INAST requesting permission from the Honorable Minister of State to carry research on solar energy. I think that is quite prudent for the development of the city. Bulawayo Poly, they are also here. Hillside Teachers College, they are here. United College of Education, they are also in attendance. Allow me to also recognize our health institutions. I saw Babuma Pande, the CEO from Pilo. I think we also have someone from UPH and Ingucheni Hospital. They are relevant to our proceedings this morning because it is the desire of this province to decongest Mpilo Central Hospital, thereby leading us to the construction of a district hospital. So they are quite relevant to our proceedings. Sile tourism sector, Mrs. Matonsi, original head where Zimbabwe Tourism Authority, together with Women in Tourism, as well as Secretary General where Women in Tourism, Madam Sheila Sitambe. And also I will recognize our churches together with sector tourism in view of their role in bringing religious tourism in the province, which to a large extent contributes to GDP of our province. We also have women in mining and also women in farming. Special mention also goes to our SMEs, a sector which has played a very, very critical role in the development of our province. We also have representation from various sectors. To name just a few, Silabe Water and Sanitation, Sibelabe Healthcare, Sibelabe Transport, Textile Industry, Manufacturing, Agriculture, ngathi bonke ama captains of industry, they are represented here. We also have a representation from two trusts. Firstly, Bulawayo, beautiful Bulawayo Trust, as well as Ndebele and Business Trust led by Ubabu Matibela. I think the Honorable Minister of State has intimated that we need to bring AMA Trust Law together so that we come up with AMA ideas and strategies to revive Bulawayo. Allow me to also recognize and introduce the Acting General Manager for ZITF, Ubaba Nicholas Ndebele, who is hosting us this morning. We might say the venue is a bit small, but to me, it's quite appropriate that we are here because within the next 3 weeks, Baba Ndebele will be showcasing our country. But we realize that we need to firstly showcase Bulawayo before we go national. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It is now my singular honor and privilege to introduce the bedrock for economic development in this beautiful province. She has not only embraced the Bulawayo is open for business mantra in line with our Vision 2030, she has also taken a bold concrete step to say, let's come together as the community of Bulawayo and speak around the ideas and strategies that will make us realize the economic development that we want for this province. In line with that, she is very, very passionate with the revival of Bulawayo, the industries in Bulawayo, and the restoration of us to the former glory. To this end, she has seen it fit to spearhead our coming together to put ideas and strategies at this investment conference. My conversation, ladies and gentlemen, is around none other than the Minister of State for Provincial Affairs, Umama Honorable Judith Ngobe. Can we put our hands together as you assist me to welcome her to the podium, Honorable Minister of State.
Let's be seated. Thank you, Madam PA. Before I start, I think we need to invite Board Chairman wethu ukuthi esukume simbone owe-ZITF, and if she's present. Okay. Silobabu Ndebele, if you could stand up so that people get to know you. Thank you. The Minister of Industry and Commerce, Honorable Ubaba Ngobizita Ndlovu, the Mayor of the City of Bulawayo, Councillor Mguni, I'm sure he's being represented by Umoyo, the Provincial Administrator, Mama Ukei Ngube, senior government officials, JOC members, the corporate world, Ubaba Uchinga, our Politburo member, Ubaba Umlungisi Moyo, Imbonile Lap, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I greet you in a special way this morning. To those who have traveled from our neighboring countries, a warm welcome to you from the province of Bulawayo. We are privileged and excited to have you with us at this time of renewed hope towards the transformation of our country. We are delighted to have the presence of government officials, industry experts, and economic specialists among us today. Before we begin, I would like to draw attention to the national disaster that befell us in the form of Cyclone Idai. By now, we are all well aware of the loss of life and extent of damage that the province of Manicaland suffered during the cyclone. I appeal to you to continue to move with hearts of generosity and the people of Manicaland and Masvingo. The province of Bulawayo is proud to host this investment conference, and we are inspired by the response of the community of Bulawayo in attendance here today. We are excited by the numerous business engagements that will arise out of this investment conference to benefit the province and the country at large. Honorable Minister of Industry and Commerce, Bulawayo Metropolitan Province is historically positioned as the country's industrial hub. We are proud to host yourself and a congregation such as this one in our province. Our deliberations here will assist in improving our regional economic status. As a nation, we need to think outside the box and remove the limitations that are in our mindset about taking our rightful place as a leading producer of value-added products. It is at this conference where we anticipate that the exchange of ideas will inspire innovative solutions to some of the challenges facing our country. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Emmerson Tambutso Mnangagwa, has engaged the international community with the declaration that Zimbabwe is open for business. We would like to boldly declare that Bulawayo is open for business. And this conference has the objective to interrogate the attractiveness of our offering as a province as we journey towards our national vision to become an upper middle income economy by the year 2030. We all need to put our heads together and be focused in all our endeavors. It is for this reason that we are gathered here to share ideas and exchange notes on how best we can embrace this national vision. We need to cultivate and nurture ideas that will assist us to achieve our goals. Bulawayo Metropolitan Province welcomes you. I wish you fruitful deliberations. Siyalamukela kwa Bulawayo. You are welcome. Thank you so much.
Let's give our minister another huge round of applause as she welcomed us into her province. Right, to get the proceedings starting, one of the key things that you would need to note about the Bulawayo province is that it is a province that is strategically positioned in terms of logistics. There is no way, no border that you can reach within Zimbabwe, actually in the SADC region, without actually passing through this province. That's how key it is. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is basically logistics and transport, and this will be done by Mr. Mike Sullivan, who will be coming through here from Bulawayo as Bulawayo Logistics and Transport Hub. Let's give him a huge round of applause as he comes through as Mr. Mike Sullivan.
Oh, that's quite useful, actually. I can move around. Great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for having me. Thank you very much to the Honourable Minister for inviting me to come. It's very much appreciated. I'm going to make my first apology, and only one of the day, is that I'm proudly Bulawayo born and raised, and I love the city that we live in. And my talk today might be slightly myopic, in that I'm going to be looking at Bulawayo as the center of everything that I talk about. So I apologize if I offend any other regions of the country, but I hope we can accept that today is a talk about Bulawayo. So, first step, there we go, right. I always think it's good to, go that way, good to look at a map of Zimbabwe, a relief map of Zimbabwe. So I'm going to step a bit further away. Because it gives us a better perspective than just looking at a flat screen, and it kind of gives us an idea as to what makes up our country and why Bulawayo is so strategic. I think the key thing we can see is this watershed, the central watershed here in the center of Zimbabwe, which I think we always need to bear in mind when we talk about logistics. Now, if you're going to approach Zimbabwe from the south or from the west, Bulawayo, you can't miss Bulawayo. Bulawayo is your gateway or your entry point into our country from these two approaches. Of course, we've got the Midlands, which you have access to, and then we've got the Mashonaland as well. But ultimately, the entry point into Zimbabwe is from Bulawayo with that approach. At the moment, we're proposing a few projects in Zimbabwe. We're looking at connecting Harare to Bite Bridge on the dualization of the Masvingo highway. We're also looking, or they're considering a plan to connect Harare to Lusaka through a railway connection through Chirundu. Now, for both of those projects, as much as they are applaudable and I can see the logic behind them, I would argue that the money that you're going to spend in this section of Zimbabwe, building the road, is going to cost a large amount of that project. In the same way, this is a beautiful part of the country. I drove down there recently into the Zambezi Valley, but you've got a very mountainous region here, and that would be a very expensive project to invest money in. You've already got an existing railway line from Bulawayo to Victoria Falls, and I was a bit squiggly on my map, but it's almost a straight line. You'd be better off investing the money by dualizing the railway from Bulawayo to Victoria Falls, would be a fraction of the cost of a new railway connection up here. In the same way, looking at where I would prioritize spending money on highways is there's not a huge difference in distance going from Harare to Bite Bridge, but coming via Bulawayo, and I'll talk about this little bypass a little bit later, and effectively you can look at it as a 2-for-1 deal, because with only 100 kilometers, you can connect in two borders. So you can have a connection from, if you're looking at the world from Harare, you get the Bite Bridge border, and you also get the Plumtree border post, and that will cost you a fraction of the cost as it would doing this big investment here from Harare to Bite Bridge. So again, as people from Bulawayo, we need to be saying, this is where we should be investing our money. Also, you've got very quick connections, the road construction up to rejuvenating the highway up to Zambia, and of course you can still get up through Chirundu going via Chinhoyi. And I would say looking at that as a map for the backbone of your road infrastructure network would be a much quicker way of moving people around our country. And again, keep in mind, this is the watershed. So this is where you build roads easily. I was recently involved in a house building project, and we, the lady who was building the house spent $10,000 extra just by going an extra meter on her foundations. So as soon as you're talking about backfilling and excavations, you're talking about lots and lots of money, and I think that's the problem you're going to be in this section and up in this section here as well. Whereas working with the watershed and the natural contours of our country, that I would recommend would be the backbone. Again, I am Bulawayo biased, but I'm not going to apologize again for that. I want to look at now at kind of going to zoom out a bit on Zimbabwe and just say, well, what's happening around us? Or what is the potential around us? In Namibia, you've got a railway line which connects Walvis Bay. So Walvis Bay is here, and it ends before the Botswana border, so it doesn't cross the Botswana border. We know that we've got a railway line from Gaborone. So Gaborone is down here, Francistown is up here, and of course that already links into to Zimbabwe. At the moment, we've got a dry port facility which I think is almost 100% implemented now in Walvis Bay, and we are getting trucks to drive from Bulawayo to Namibia, and they're delivering goods which are then coming to Bulawayo. And I think the idea is to clear the goods here in Bulawayo, and they're either moving through the Caprivi or they're obviously going through Botswana. Now there is another project which has been mooted by our neighbors, Namibia and Botswana, and if we're not aware of it, we should become more familiar with it. But they are considering the Trans-Kalahari Railway Network, or railway line. So they are proposing to connect Namibia and Botswana by a railway line through the Kalahari. And at the moment, the only people involved in that conversation are Botswana and Namibia. Zimbabwe are not talking to them. They have based their model, their economic model, on transporting thermal coal from Botswana to Walvis Bay, and it's $68 a ton is their break-even price. The reason they haven't gone through with the project is because of the fluctuations in price of coal. So they think it's too much of a financial risk. But I would suggest that we have ministers here and other people within our government to pick up a phone, speak to our friends in Namibia and Botswana and say, look, let's put Zimbabwe as part of that conversation. Rather than just basing a model on Botswana and Namibia, let's look at 3 countries together and let's see how we could work together to get products moving quickly from the port. Now, another fact that we might not know, and I've had confirmation of this several times now, is that Zimbabwe have been given 100 kilometers of Namibian coastline. Apparently a document has been signed, and the more public that is made so that business people can look into it and see the details of that document, the better. But the Namibian government has said to Zimbabwe that we may develop 100 kilometers of their coastline for our benefit. Now, I would suggest that we start looking at those options and see what it is that we can do as private business people, as government, and Zimbabweans in engaging our neighbors in Namibia and Botswana. Ideally, what we want to do is we want to have goods arriving in Walvis Bay. We want a container to be picked up by a crane, put onto a train, and the next time anything touches that container would be at the clearance port here in Bulawayo. So we don't want, within 2 days from arriving in the port in Walvis Bay, we should have goods here in Bulawayo. And that's the sort of thinking and the target that we need to aim for. And we need to be asking ourselves the questions. Namibia and Botswana are our friends. Is there any reason why we have to keep putting up barriers between our countries? At what point can we take a step forward and say, is it not better that we work together and try and get this logistical movement for the benefit of all three of our countries going properly? Another link which already exists, we've got the railway line up to Victoria Falls. I've alluded to the dualization of this railway. Just want to quickly zoom in, go slightly off topic here, but I think it's worth mentioning it. I would suggest that when you approach Victoria Falls, we need to look at a bypass of Victoria Falls itself. So when we're looking at this railway line, we should miss out Victoria Falls to the east, or if the Zambians are not so happy with that, we could look at a bypass around to the west. And again, we have to look into that. I think you want Victoria Falls to be clear of commercial traffic. It's the World Heritage Site. We're very well known for it. And we've got we're starting to get a lot of congestion over that very beautiful bridge. But I think we need